In 2022, 68.9% of schools have a playground, but slightly from 66.5% in 2018. So next topic is National Museum of Natural History. So context: Regional Museum of Natural History RMNH Mysore, a regional branch of National Museum of Natural History under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, organized awareness programs on #Save Energy, #Lifestyle for Environment, Mission Life, Green Talk and Green Pledge. So about National Museum of Natural History, the National Museum of Natural History was a museum focusing on nature located in New Delhi, India. So established in 1972 and opened in 1978, the museum functions under the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Exhibits at the NMNH were focused on India's plants, animals and mineral wealth and were divided into 4 main exhibit galleries. So cell, the basic unit of life, then conservation, then introduction to a natural history and nature's network ecology. So All India Consumer Price Index. So in syllabus, in news, the All India Consumer Price Index number for agricultural laborers base 1986 to 87 is equals to 100 for the month of December 2022. So remained stationary at 1167 points, and for rural laborers increased by 1 point to stand at 1179 points. So maximum increase for agricultural laborers Rajasthan, or maximum increase for rural laborers Kerala. About CPI, it is a comprehensive measure consumer price index, or CPI as it is commonly called, as is an index measuring retail inflation in the economy by collecting the change in prices of most common goods and services used by consumers, called market basket. CPI is calculated for a fixed list of items including food, housing, apparel, transportation, electronics, medical care, education, etc. So remember, CPI is different from WPI actually, for or wholesale price index, which measures inflation at the wholesale level. In India, there are 4 CPI numbers. So CPI for industrial workers, then CPI for agricultural laborers, CPI for rural laborers, and CPI for urban non-manual employees. So while the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation collects CPI data and compiles it, the remaining 3 are collected by the Labor Bureau in the Ministry of Labor. So uses to calculate the inflation level, CPI's annual percentage change is also used to assess inflation. To compute the cost of living, the purchasing power of a country's currency, understanding the real value of wages, salaries and pensions, price regulation provides insights to consumer spending capacity. The calculation. The CPI is calculated with reference to a base year, which is used as a benchmark. The price change pertains to that year. CPI is equals to cost of basket divided by cost of basket in the base year multiplied by 100 base years. So CPI IW is equals to 1982, CPI AL is equals to 1986 or 7, CPI RL is equals to 1984 to 85. Then our next topic is Sansad Khel Mahakumbh. So in news, the second phase of Sansad Khel Mahakumbh 2022-23 was inaugurated in Basti district of UP via video conferencing. The first phase of the Khel Mahakumbh was held from December 10 to 16, 2022, and the second phase of the Khel Mahakumbh is scheduled from January 2023, 18 to 28. About Khel Mahakumbh is a unique initiative that provides an opportunity and platform to the youth of the district and surrounding areas to showcase their sporting talent and motivate them to take up sports as a career option. It also seeks to instill discipline, teamwork, healthy competition, confidence, and a sense of nationalism in the youth of the region. Various competitions are organized in both indoor and outdoor games like wrestling, kabaddi, kho-kho, basketball, hockey, football, volleyball, handball, chess, carom, badminton, table tennis, etc. Apart from these, competitions like essay writing, painting, rangoli making were also organized. So athletes who perform through these games are being selected for further training under the Sports Authority of India around 40,000 athletes are participating in the Khel Mahakumbh as compared to last year. So financial assistance of rupees 50,000 per month is also being provided to 2,500 athletes through Khelo India. About 500 Olympic potential athletes are being prepared under the Target Olympic Podium Scheme (TOPS). Keeping in mind the need for international training, some players have received assistance ranging from rupees 2.5 crore to 7 crore rupees. More than 1,000 Khelo India district centers are being set up across the country, out of which more than 750 centers have been completed. Geotagging of all sports grounds across the country is also being done so that players do not have any problem in taking training. A sports university in Manipur has been developed for the youth of the Northeast, and another sports university is also being constructed in Meerut, UP. So what is the significance of this? So there was a time when sports was considered an extracurricular activity and was relegated to a hobby or activity without much value, a mentality that greatly harmed the country. This led to many talented sports persons not achieving their potential through such events. India's traditional expertise in sports will get a new dimension. The daughters of Basti, Purvanchal, UP and all over India will showcase their talent and skills on a global stage. Sports is getting due prestige in society. This has resulted in unprecedented performance in the Olympics, Paralympics, and other competitions. Sports competitions at different levels and regions make the players aware of their potential, thereby helping them develop their own techniques, while also helping the coaches in identifying shortcomings and providing room for improvement. So our next topic is alien species in tiger reserves. So in news, basically several alien invasive plants growing together can have a detrimental effect to the biodiversities in tiger habitats. A new study has found the research paper has deciphered many negative impacts of multiple co-occurring alien plants on biodiversity and what it means for conservation in the era of global changes. The study is the first of its kind in India and was published in General Forest Ecology and Management by the Wildlife Institute of India. Invasive alien species are plants, animals, pathogens, and other organisms that are non-native to an ecosystem and which may cause economic or environmental harm or adversely affect human health, regenerate at an alarming speed, or threaten to edge out the indigenous flora. Some of the invasive plants have a toxic impact on the landscape after remaining underwater, which is often for 2 months every monsoon. Some weeds have herbal properties, but their toxicity outweighs their utility. For instance, wild boar love to gorge on the succulent rootlets of the Lea macrophylla or Cucura thangia, that is fast clogging the patrolling paths and grasslands. Why is it an issue? First, impact of alien plants unknown. India's biodiverse ecosystems are threatened by a variety of alien plants like Lantana camara, Parthenium hysterophorus, Prosopis juliflora, etc., introduced during British colonization. Lantana alone has pervasively invaded 44% of India's forest. Apart from its spread in different ecosystems and occasional reports on its association with birds, little is known about how invasive plants affect an ecosystem in the long term. There is even greater confusion when one asks about how alien plants impact native ecosystems. Due to the absence of reliable scientific data and mixed opinions on the impact of alien species, there exists a dilemma regarding the need to manage them. In the face of rapid pervasive invasions, this inaction could threaten ecosystem sustenance. First, the plant can put pressure on native forage plants and drive away wild herbivores, the food source for the big cats. Native wild herbivores like cheetal and sambar did not prefer the commonly found plants in invaded areas. They preferred rare forage plants which were already depleted in infested areas. Although wild herbivores consumed a limited portion of alien plants with monotonous invasion stands. Their dependence on native forage increases. Invasions might slowly deplete the native plant populations and might lead to diseases in the herbivorous. Then reduced forage availability for herbivores like sambar and cheetal, which are major prey for tiger, leopard and dhole. In this landscape threaten the sustenance of these carnivores in invaded regions. The future of these tiger ecosystem can thus be grim. It is indicative of an invasion-centric forest ecosystem, historically unmatched, defaunted, and functionally downgraded with homogenized biodiversity. Conclusion: it is necessary to prioritize restoration, investments in the least invaded regions to retain native biodiversity and slowly upscale such restored habitats. The study highlighted the importance of investments in scientific restoration in India to mitigate the impacts of biological invasions. So, Kanha Tiger Reserve, also known as Kanha Kisli National Park, is one of the tiger reserves of India and the largest national park of the state of Madhya Pradesh. Host populations of Bengal tiger, Indian leopard, dhole, sloth bear, Bengal fox, and Indian jackal. The Barasingha is adopted to swampy areas. The gaur inhabits meadows and water holes in the park. Black buck has become very rare. The first tiger reserve in India to officially introduce the muscat Bhoor Singh the Barasingha. The area is the ancestral home of the Gond and Baga tribes. So our next topic is NGT probe into crows operating in Bhopal Ramsar wetland. So in news, the National Green Tribunal has directed the Central Pollution Control Board and Madhya Pradesh Pollution Control Board to periodically monitor the activities of a cruise vessel polluting the Bhoj wetland in Bhopal, MP. The critical issue: the cruise began operating in 2011. Small cruise vessels with passengers act as floating colonies that pollute water bodies with sewage, wastewater and other contaminants. A mid-sized cruised vessel can consume 150 tons of fuel each day and dump toxic waste in water. The state government has permitted the operation of the cruise with a capacity of 50 passengers, but even broad estimates suggest that human sewage of 19,000 liters will be generated in a week alone. Measure: the state government plans to introduce cruise vessels of bigger capacity in summer 2023. Launching cruise vessels will be a direct violation of the state government's own laws. Violations: operating on diesel plus provision of the Environmental Protection Act 1986, which states Prevention of Water Pollution and Other Air Pollution Acts, and Biological Diversity Act of 1974 and 2022 respectively. Why is it even more dangerous? The wetland is also a Ramsar site with international importance and has two lakes: Upper Lake, also called Bhojtal, and Lower Lake or Chota Talab. It provides drinking water to 1.2 million people. Upper Lake hosts 15 varieties of fish and turtles. About 2,500 migratory birds across the world visit the wetland that serves as a breeding and nesting habitat for them. The launching of the cruise vessel and increasing human activity due to tourists will directly impact biodiversity. The way forward should be made mandatory to submit a factual and action taken report with regard to the compliance of the rules and government orders. CPCB and MPPCB should monitor the activities of the cruise on the Bhoj wetland for pollution caused by its operations. Increasing tourist footprint should also have a plan for how to balance or compensate for the damage caused. Motorboats do ply in land waters such as Kerala backwaters, but guidelines are needed for operating a cruise vessel. About wetlands. Wetlands are an area of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salt, including areas of marine water, the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 60 meters, but does not include river channels, paddy fields, human-made water bodies, tanks, specifically constructed for drinking water purposes, and structures specifically constructed for aquaculture, salt production, recreation, and irrigation purposes. To be Ramsar site, However, it must meet at least one of 9 criteria as defined by the Ramsar Convention Act of 1961. Wetlands in India. India's Ramsar wetlands are spread over 11,000 square kilometers, around 10% of the total wetland area in the country, across 18 states. No other South Asian country has as many sites, though this has much to do with India's geographical breadth and tropical diversity. The UK 175, Mexico 142 have the maximum Ramsar sites, whereas Bolivia spans the largest area with 148,000 square kilometers under the convention protection. Wetlands are also known to have among the highest soil carbon densities and therefore play a major role in buffering carbon dioxide emissions. The National Wetland Inventory and Assessment compiled by the Indian Space Research Organization estimates India's wetlands to span around 1,52,600 square kilometers, which is 4.63% of the total geographical area of the country. India has 19 types of wetlands, whereas Gujarat has the maximum area, followed by Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. Wetlands in Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat serve as important spaces for migratory bird significance. Being designated a Ramsar site ensure actually states and the center takes a step to keep these tracts of lands are conserved and spared from man-made encroachment. Acquiring this label also helps with the local tourism potential and its international visibility. About Ramsar Convention, the Convention on Wetlands is the intergovernmental treaty that provides the framework for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. The convention was adopted in the Iranian city of Ramsar in 1971 and came into force in 1975. Since then, almost 90% of UN member states have acceded to become contracting parties. Aim: International Mangrove Cooperation Mechanism aims for technical exchanges, collaborative research, education and training, and pilot projects on conservation and restoration to protect mangrove biodiversity and coastal blue carbon ecosystems, enhance mangrove ecosystem services, and resilience to climate change. The convention uses a broad definition of wetlands. It includes all lakes and rivers, underground aquifers, swamps and marshes, wet grasslands, peatlands, oases, estuaries, deltas, tidal flats, mangroves, and other coastal areas, coral reefs, and all human-made sites such as fish ponds, rice paddies, reservoirs, and salt pans. First, a Ramsar site is a wetland of international importance under the Ramsar Convention criteria. One of the 9 criteria must be fulfilled to be the Ramsar site. Criteria 1. If it contains a representative, rare or unique examples of a natural or near natural wetland type found within the appropriate biogeographic region. Criteria 2. If it supports vulnerable and endangered and critically endangered species or threatened ecological communities. Criteria 3. If it supports populations of plant and or animal species important for maintaining the biological diversity of a particular biogeographic region. Criteria 4. If it supports plants and or animal species at a crucial stage in their life cycles or provides refuge during adverse conditions. Criteria 5. If it regularly supports 20,000 or more water birds. Criteria 6. If it regularly supports 1% of the individuals in a population of one of species or subspecies of water bird. Criteria 7. If it supports a significant proportion of indigenous fish subspecies, species or families, life history stages, species interactions and or populations that are representative of wetland benefits and or values and thereby contributes to global biological diversity. Criteria 8. If it is an important source of food or for fishes, spawning ground, nursery and or migration path on which fish stocks either within the wetland or elsewhere depend. Criteria 9. If it regularly supports 1% of the individuals in a population of one species or subspecies of wetland dependent on non-avian animal species. So, digitalization of judiciary in India. Our next topic is digitalization of judiciary in India. So, India takes an average of 2,184 days to dispose of a case in its subordinate courts, 1,128 days in its high courts, and 1,095 days in Supreme Court. bringing the total life cycle of a case in India to 12 plus years. Indian judicial system has been suffering from pendency of cases. Over 4.3 crore cases have been pending at various stages of the judicial processes. Digitalization. Digitization of the judicial process holds promise in reaffirming the trust of the citizen of the judiciary. About digitization of the judicial process, digitization refers to the increased uses of digital technology to perform conventional tasks, thereby reducing time and enhancing public service delivery. In the context of the judicial process, it stands for documentation of the case in digital format. Richard Eric Susskind in his book The Future of Law has written that in the coming years, lawyers and their litigants will communicate through email. Evolution of digitization in administration and judiciary. In India, e-governance in the field of administration of justice began in the late 1990s, but it accelerated after the enactment of the Information and Technology Act 2000. 2006, e-courts were launched as a part of the National E-Governance Plan. Guiding star, Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court Justice D.Y. Chandrachud conceptualized and initiated the project to digitize approximately 1 crore cases files in a 1 year. Necessary. A large space required to store so many files, becoming difficult to manually preserve the decades old documents, plus to ensure that these files are traceable electronically as and when required. The consequences of missing court records are grave. In state of UP versus Abhay Raj Singh, held by the Supreme Court, that if court records go missing and reconstruction is not possible, the courts are bound to set aside the conviction. Thus, convicts can go free for want of court records. Benefits of uses of technology and digitization. Firstly, reduction in the need for storage infrastructure for case files, in which judges population ratio 20% per million for India, whereas for other countries it is approximately double. Increased traceability of case files, reduced time for court proceedings, for ensuring real justice. In state of UP versus Abhay Raj Singh, it was held by the Supreme Court that if court records go missing and reconstruction is not possible, the courts are bound to set aside the conviction. For increased ease of procedure in the judicial ecosystem, increased openness and transparency, challenges associated with the digitization of judicial records. Digitization and uses of digital infra require increased funding. Digital literacy amongst the stakeholders is abysmal. Privacy concerns, hacking and cyber security. Steps taken for the uses of technology in judicial process. Digitization of judicial records and establishment of e-courts. E-court project. This was conceptualized under the National Policy and Action Plan for Implementation of Information and Communication Technology in the Indian Judiciary 2005. National Judicial Data Grid NJDG is a database of order, judgment and case details of 18,735 computerized district and subordinate courts, created as an online platform under the e-court projects. Data is updated on a near real-time basis by the connected district and taluka courts and high courts. SUPACE. SUPACE, it is a short form of Supreme Court Portal for Assistance in Courts Efficiency. It is a composite AI assisted tool. SUVAS, it is short form of Supreme Court Vidhik Anuvad Software. Virtual Hearing in Courts. The Supreme Court in Anjali Brahmaswar Chauhan versus Naveen Chauhan allowed the family court Gautam Buddha Nagar to conduct the trial for a matrimonial case through video conferencing. Live streaming of courts proceedings. On the basis of the judgment in Swapnil Tripathi in 2018, the Supreme Court allowed the live streaming of cases of constitutional and national importance. Gujarat High Court became the first court in the country to live stream its proceedings. So, way forward, as the technology grows, concerns about data protection, privacy, human right, and ethics will pose fresh challenges and hence will require great self regulation by developers of these technologies. It will also require external regulation by the legislature through statute, rules, regulations, and by the judiciary through judicial review and constitutional standards. The cases related to matrimonial issues and domestic violence, bounced checks, motor accident, compensation, refer to mediation centers, and lok adalats could be included in the list of cases fit for disposal through the virtual hearing. So consider the following statements regarding export promotion capital goods scheme. First, the EPCG scheme is administered by the Director General of Foreign Trade. Benefits under EPCG scheme can be applied by any exporter irrespective of his turnover. So which one of the correct answer in the above given four options? Kana Tiger Reserve is often mentioned in news located in Meghalaya, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Odisha. Consider the following statements regarding National Museum of Natural History. The National Museum of Natural History was a museum focusing on nature located in New Delhi, India. The museum functions under the Ministry of Culture. So which one of the correct answer in the given following four options? So